Hello, today I'm going to be talking about Olnea tesota, or the ironwood tree as we know it here in the Sonoran Desert. The ironwood tree is part of the Fabaceae family of trees. The Fabaceae family covers your legumes, your nuts, everything with pods would be part of Fabaceae. It is a large family, and inside that family there's a few subfamilies, and some of them of importance is Faboidea, where you will find the ironwood tree. There is also another one, Cassialpinioidea, and that one is important because it has the mesquite and the palovardi, two other plants that live side by side with the ironwood. There's also these Petiria and the brush pea, which are more closely related to the ironwood than the mesquite and palovardi, but they do not live in the same area. And there's two plants down here we will look at later, and they are from a completely different line of plants. If you look at the leaves are paired down the stem as they go. You see that in mesquite and you see that in the palovardi as well. This is referred to as pinnate. The Petaria has it as well. It is a very common feature among Fabaceae family plants. The brush pea is the exception of this group. It has a little set of three leaves. And the ironwood, mesquite, and the palovardi are the ones that actually look the most alike here, and that is due to them living in the same environment. But if we look at the flowers, their flowers are quite different. The ironwood, this first one, is bilaterally symmetrical, but you have the palovardi, it's round, laterally, radially symmetrical, and the mesquite even has these bushy tails with tiny flowers. These tiny flowers are also round, radially symmetrical. Now if we look at the two plants which are more closely related to the ironwood, their flowers are shaped more like the ironwood. There are these two petals in the back, then a set of petals closer together enclosing the pistil and stamen. The brush pea has the two petals enclosed, and the ironwood has the same structure. So these plants, being more closely related, do have flowers that look more like each other. And almost all plants in the Fabaceae family have pods, and here are the pods. This first one comes from the ironwood, and you'll notice it is a lot shorter than a mesquite, which has several seeds in it. The mesquite you only have 1 to 4, so they are shorter peas. And the brush pea, a closely related plant to the ironwood, does have a pod that looks similar. This one is pretty young, so it doesn't quite look the same as the picture, but once it gets older and dries out, it'll look more like the ironwood. The palovardi, different species, can actually look more like the mesquite. Now as to the history of the ironwood. It was first formed in the middle Miocene era, but there are no fossils from back then. The earliest record we have of the ironwood comes from the pack rat. The pack rat is a rat that builds its nest out of whatever it finds from its environment. So if it is living in an area full of ironwood trees, it'll be making its nest out of bits and pieces of ironwood. This picture here shows you an old nest with bits and pieces that are made in it. And there are some pack rat nests that date back to about 8,600 years ago that have bits and pieces of ironwood in them, and those are the oldest records we have of ironwood. There are some larger fossils of ironwood, and those date back to 4,000 years. But thanks to the pack rat, we do have some records going back farther, 8,600 years. Now if we compare the ironwood to some other plants, we'll find some similarities. One is the wood itself. This tree here is on the East Coast what they would call an ironwood because it has very similar wood to the desert ironwood. It is dense and strong and hard, and so that's why they're both referred to as ironwood, but they did not get this from a common ancestor. And the blackberry, it has thorns on it, just like the ironwood has thorns. Thorns are something in plants that have independently developed in various plants. They come and go, and so they've all arrived as a defense against predators, but they did not all come from one single species. And here is a picture of the ironwood in full bloom and the sources I used. Thank you.